No, we ain't doing this again. Don't get too comfortable, because I got tricked into this once, but I ain't gonna get tricked again. No. Suits season 1, episode 6, Tricks of the Trade, 40 plus minutes of facts and figures. Netflix, let's run it back. Welcome back to my channel. It's Liv, living life with locks and learning lessons along the way. Now, there is actually a scene from this episode and a specific line or part of the script that has stuck with me right up until my present day, from when I first watched it all the way back when, because I actually remember how it impacted my thinking whilst I was at university when I rewatched this episode. So when I rewatched it, there was something that Mike Ross's character says. Mike Ross's character? The character is Mike Ross. There was something that Mike Ross said that made me think, oh yeah, like I remember when I was in my university years, which was several years ago, and I used to have this as a running thought in my mind, but I'll get to it. Let me pace myself and start off with what this episode is about in a nutshell. It's all about insider trading, and you kind of have this law world or legal world versus the finance stockbroker world all throughout this episode. It seems like lawyers and stockbrokers, or those in finance, seem to have this kind of rivalry between them. I guess it's like solicitor versus accountant, like which profession should you go into? It's like a head-to-head in a way. And you see this throughout the series, especially with them being in New York and having Wall Street there, etc. I really think that it becomes a running theme throughout the Suits series that lawyers and those in finance, I say those in finance because it's like accountants, stockbrokers, finance managers and portfolio managers and investment bankers who seem to have this kind of versus relationship. Like they try and one up each other or try and make the other feel like what they do isn't as important as what they do, which I think is just, it's like so, like they're both important. When you think of like a corporation or a business or anyone who needs representation or needs experts to support them with the infrastructure of an organization, you need your accountants and you need your lawyers. You need someone looking at the numbers and you need someone looking at the wording. But then it kind of goes back to school days when you would hear English teachers didn't like maths and maths teachers didn't like English. And usually if you liked one subject, you didn't really like the other one. I guess I'm a bit of an alien because I loved maths, but I also liked English literature specifically because creative writing really ain't my thing. And analyzing text and stuff was my vibe. So I feel like there's naturally this kind of rivalry between numbers and words. I don't know why, but there seems to be one, and it plays out in this series, and the birth of that happens in this episode, I will say. Let's go through some of the tricks of the different trades that you see throughout this episode. So we're going to start off with what this case is all about. So the main case is Harvey Specter and Mike Ross are representing a finance company, a management company. It manages stocks. Basically, one of their employees gets caught up in some insider trading unintentionally, unbeknownst, is that the word? Unbeknownst to her. Without her realizing, she gets caught up in insider trading. And what happens is the corporation that Harvey's representing is going up against the legal representation for the employee. It's an internal matter, very much like I've explained other cases to be in previous episodes. But this one is a slightly different dynamic because you actually find that Mike is compassionate to the woman who's got caught up in this situation. He doesn't feel like, one, she did it intentionally, and that's why I said it was unintentional, unbeknownst to her that she got caught up in this situation. And two, he actually thinks that we should, I say we like I'm a part of the case. I'm a part of the case, that we should consider that maybe there's something more going on, and she just happened to be the employee that was scapegoated for things that are happening that shouldn't be happening, and maybe further up you need to investigate, which I will get to. That's basically the main case that's going on, but you also have another storyline running parallel to that. So remember I said, if you've watched my other episodes, and if you haven't, I would say go check them out, because I make some references to those videos of those episodes. The last couple of episodes have started with Lewis being like a constant reminder that Mike didn't go to law school, doesn't have a law degree, and therefore is illegally practicing law as a lawyer in the law firm Pearson Hardman, as it's known right now. What I will say is you don't necessarily see Lewis be a reminder again in this specific episode, but you do see someone else come into the picture who does make Mike feel uncomfortable, make him feel uneasy. There's a woman named Teresa that Mike did the LSATs for, and so therefore she became a lawyer based on an LSAT exam that Mike took on her behalf. And so she enters the offices talking to Rachel, because Rachel's showing her around. Rachel feels some type of way that Teresa and her have worked in Pearson Hardman together. They were both paralegals, but now Teresa is a full-blown lawyer. Rachel feels Teresa's a bit of a reminder of a path that she wanted to go on, but she hasn't been able to succeed because she doesn't test well. And you find out why she doesn't test well in this episode when Mike becomes like her study buddy, tries to help her out. You learn that Rachel's actually quite a perfectionist. So on a multiple choice exam, she will second guess her gut instinct answers because she's scared of getting absolutely any question wrong, rather than trusting her instincts and answering the question. And so therefore what she could actually end up doing is losing marks for herself. There's a lesson in that for students or anyone who is studying for anything. Trust your gut sometimes. Well, I say most of the time or all the time. Try not to be such a perfectionist, because in trying to be perfect, you can actually put yourself at a disadvantage or actually create some setbacks for yourself, such is the case with Rachel. Mike is trying to help her to get past that barrier and trying to learn and implement new strategies with studying, learning, revising, and actually sitting a test. Through that experience, you actually learn that Rachel is considering getting someone to do the test for her, because she actually learns from Teresa herself that someone did her test for her, which is the test genius, which is Mike. Although at the point at which Teresa and Rachel have this conversation, Rachel doesn't know that the test genius is Mike, but Mike knows, because Mike has been whispering in Rachel's ear trying to find out why Teresa's there, because Rachel doesn't know who Teresa is to Mike, or why Mike knows Teresa, but she starts to put two and two together towards the end of the episode. Mike finds out why Teresa's in the why she was in the building, because obviously he's been avoiding her, because if Teresa sees Mike, then that recognition may cause some problems for Mike. If Teresa's like, how are you here when you were cheating on a test? You basically did my LSAT test, so why are you here? Or how did you get here? I don't believe you went to law school. So Mike finds out some stuff about Teresa through Rachel. As different exchanges are happening, Mike clocks on that Rachel is going to try and get the hookup so that someone can sit the test for her, so that she can finally go to law school and be a lawyer like she wants to be. But Mike kind of intercepts that whole process, that whole possibility. In a way, you kind of learn that Mike is trying to ensure that Rachel doesn't make the same mistake he did. He wants her to do the right thing in the right way. So yes, he would like her to go to law school, but he doesn't want her to go to law school cheating her way in. Therefore, I guess he's in a good position to be the test guy. The fact that he is the test genius, the test guy, because he's not just taken one LSAT test for someone, he's taken several. People know who to call if they want to get into law school and move forward on their journey without actually having to do that aspect of the work. He tries to redirect Rachel back onto the right path, which is honorable. I guess. It's like he's trying to be a good person. Mike is a good person. I'd say he's a really good person. He's just a good person who's done some really bad, dumb, unfavorable things. But that doesn't stop him from being a good person. He's just made some mistakes, and the mistakes have led him down a path. I think that's one of the reasons why he takes pro bono cases, or he always seems grateful to be able to be on almost any case, and particularly cases that help individuals or people who are worse off or are in need, or who would otherwise not be able to afford a law firm's services. And so it shows that he has good character. He's just made some bad choices, and I don't think that bad choices necessarily define you as a bad person, which is what I believe you see through Mike. You do see that through Mike. I'd say I've just had a moment. You really do see that through Mike. This is not to condone making bad decisions intentionally, knowing the consequences could be severe or could harm someone or could harm you. But it's being able to look at the whole person and look at their character, their integrity, understand them at a deeper level, and not simply just judge them based on the surface. There could be more to the story. And I believe that Mike has a lot of layers to his story. So I do appreciate the way in which he went about this, because he could have whispered to Rachel and be like, yo, I could take the test for you. But he didn't do that. It was more a case of saying, let me help you test better so that you can get in on merits, like you can actually do it yourself and succeed, which she does eventually manage to do. So I'd say the trick there, just using the title of the episode as part of the commentary, is that you could almost see it as like Mike's trade is lying or impersonating or trying to make people believe something that isn't true to be true. And so he plays on that throughout this episode, in that he's very aware of, one, how to pass a test, and specifically the LSAT test. So he knows tricks and tactics and stuff to kind of support Rachel in getting into the right mindset in order to take the test. And also he has the answers, he knows the answers, so he can kind of support her with any kind of like mock questions that they do together as part of their studying. But then also he knows how to mask different identities. If you think of how he got to this point, he has been able to, you actually saw it in the first episode, in the pilot episode, you actually see him passing as another student to take a test. You know it's not for him. And the invigilator almost tries to hint that he's seen Mike around before. Mike's like, no, you haven't, and manages to skirt past him and get out of the building without drawing that attention to him. So he pulls a fast one basically, and he's able to escape. So I'd say that's Mike's tricks there, but at the same time you see the good side of his tricks. It's like the tricks that work for me, they are not necessarily good tricks, and therefore I wouldn't want other people to play those same tricks on themselves or on their life. Then obviously Harvey and Mike work quite close together, and you see that Mike is quite anxious about his secret coming out, and Harvey, again, dismissive, brushing it off, telling Mike to calm down. But you do kind of get a sense that Harvey's beginning to, he's trying to put Mike's mind at ease, but I feel like Harvey is calming Mike down because Harvey knows that he's also in the wrong. So he's trying not to increase his own anxiety levels, I'd say, because he doesn't want to get caught either, because they could have his license for hiring someone who does not have the legal rights to practice law in the way that Mike is. It is kind of interesting how Harvey appears cool, but we know deep down it's like a swan. I guess it's like on the surface they look really calm and they move across the water so smoothly, but they are paddling like crazy underneath the surface. And I feel that's a bit like Harvey. He's trying to keep Mike at ease. Mike has his panic on show, it's on the surface, whereas Harvey's calm out of the two of them. But I know that there's things that he's thinking, cogs are turning, or he's open to certain maneuvers, which happens further in the series in order to avoid the ship from sinking, because he likes working with Mike. He really likes working with Mike. So it does Harvey no favors to have Mike found out either, because Harvey and Mike are developing quite a team dynamic, getting things done, getting the job done. What I also want to say on the tricks with Mike, not necessarily about his impersonations, and he's been mimicking Harvey quite a bit over the last few episodes. There have been several references to him trying to look like Harvey, speak like Harvey, just be Harvey through the way that he styles his hair. Obviously it started with the suit. I think in the last episode he actually told someone at an office that he went to get information from that he was Harvey Specter. He gave his name as Harvey Specter. I think in an earlier episode as well, so this is a few episodes ago, Harvey actually looked at Mike and says, "Are you trying to look like me?" So you do see a bit of that, I guess, the kind of mentee-mentor relationship. It's not that you should become your mentor, but it's almost like Mike is visually evolving into Harvey's mini-me. They have different characters, but they have overlap, and that overlap increases as time moves on, because obviously you become a product of your environment, and so it's important to know who you are surrounded by, because that tells you who you're influenced by. Therefore, obviously the more time Mike spends with Harvey, learns from Harvey, studies Harvey so that he can become a better lawyer, because Harvey is a really good lawyer, then it's like he will naturally absorb some elements of Harvey's identity. But outside of that tricking, another thing that Mike kind of brings up, which I want to circle back to what I said at the beginning of this video about something that I learned and it has carried forward to now. As Mike is helping Rachel study, he shares an anecdote about himself where he was at school and he was trying to personalize his own study experiences for Rachel to feel like she could connect to him, because obviously Mike is seen as this genius. He always seems to know the answers and do really well, and obviously Rachel believes that Mike actually did go to law school, and specifically Harvard Law School, and so therefore she feels like, oh, it's easy for you because you already did what I wish I could do. And so Mike shares this story about how when he was at school, he was tested and retested and tested and retested to see how brilliant he was. And apparently he would always be in the 99th percentile. And so Rachel says what anyone else would really ask the question, so you couldn't get the 100th? And Mike says there actually isn't a 100th percentile. And what I took from that when I watched this episode the first time many years ago was that it's that whole kind of striving for perfection. There's nothing wrong with pushing for perfection if you don't put the pressure on yourself to actually be perfect. It's about making progress, because perfection actually does not exist. Perfect doesn't exist. So that's what I kind of learned from that scene, that script exchange many years ago, because I remember when I was at university, there was a economics professor that I had. Brilliant educator. Like, I learned so much from him, and it was actually one of my best modules when I finished my final year of university. I had him in my first year for a module, for an economics module, and I had him in my final year. So I think in my first year it was Introduction to Economics, and then in my final year it was International Economics. And I remember in the first year, first lecture, first semester, I'd say, I think I had him in the first section of my academic year of university, and he said, I have never given full marks to any student. And he had been a professor for many years, and for him to say that in the first lecture of his module to first years of university in the first semester of their first year, no matter how hard you try, you're trying to tell me that no student has ever got full marks. So it made me think of the episode even more, and that scene in particular. And it turned out for me personally that in my final year, that actually became the module that I did the best in. And I think it's because I was focused on trying to make progress in smaller areas. So rather than focus and burn myself out trying to get 100%, I was just like, let me just try and do better on different things each time. Because I know at the beginning of my final year, I wrote an essay, practice essay for his module. And I remember I sent it to him, or I went to see him during his office hours, and he was like, if you wrote this in your final exam, I would barely give you a pass. And I was like, whew, I kind of took that as a knock. That was was like a solid knock. And then I worked on it. I was like, okay, tell me what I should be thinking about, like, so that I can pull this essay apart and do better. And so I listened to him intently. Like, even though he hurt my feelings, I was just like, I need to strip out the personal, because if he's telling me this now, I still have time to work on making it better. And so I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to show you that I can get more than a pass. And then that became a module that I got, well, I think it was the only module actually that I got a first in, which is the top grading that you can get for a module in my final year. So all the others I got 2 1s, and I think I got a couple of 2 2s, which is the next level down. Like I got an upper second class overall. Your degree is given the same way that it's graded, the individual modules. That module, my international economics module, was the only one that I got a first class grade on. And I was so proud of myself, because it was like, even though I didn't get full marks, I made improvement from the beginning of that final year based on something he said in the first year. I was like, okay, you're not going to give full marks, but it shows that you do have high expectations for your students to still do well, even if you don't give out 100%. There was just so much that one scene where Mike is having a very like humble, grounded moment, because he knows a lot and he's got so many thoughts and things stored in his mind, but it shows that he's still human. So even geniuses are people. So when you think of people whose brains operate at a different rate to anyone else's, or they seem like they are so alien to society because they are genius in this area or amazing in this area, or they seem so skilled or so advanced, they are still human beings. They still have moments. So even if you got 100%, what's weird about school is that even if you got 100% at school, you'd probably still be teased for it by someone who got like 60% or 40% or 80% or whatever. It's recognizing that they are still people. Geniuses are still people. People with high IQs and even possibly low EQs are still people, and therefore they have experiences that live with them that they probably ride on. Like, I can imagine Mike holds on to that story to keep pushing himself. So even though he's like, I've only ever been able to achieve the 99th percentile, that doesn't stop me from trying to sustain or maintain a high level for myself or a high success rate for myself. There's just a lot of deeper rooted things to this episode. I'm not even talking about the insider trading at the moment, because I just feel like those personal moments between the characters are the things that I like to kind of focus on at times. Sometimes the case just inspires the dialogue between the characters in the office, where you see the human side of them, and I really do like that. That's what I think I like about this series. It allows you to go to the people beyond the suit. You know what I mean? So you see the suit, doesn't matter how flashy the suit is, there's a story behind the man or the woman in the suit. So I think that's something to really keep a lookout for when you're watching the series or when you're watching the episodes. I'm assuming you're going to watch these episodes alongside watching these videos. I mean, you can just watch these videos, but I feel like you can get the real essence of the series Suits when you watch it, and then come and comment in my videos so that you can then share with me what you feel like you've learned or you took from that particular episode. But we're going to move on to another point now. We are going to move on. So referring to my notes, I want to talk a little bit about Harvey and Lewis, and this is probably where I will wrap up this video, because I would say there's tricks that they play on each other or play on themselves at times, and I will say that there's more about Lewis's character that you see in this episode. Well, you see more and you learn more about each of the characters with each episode. But the side of Lewis you see in this episode is quite horrible. Like, he is very dismissive of anyone's lives, personal lives. So just as I was making that point about geniuses still being human beings, people still being people, regardless of the things that they have accomplished in life or the experiences that they've had, there's a level of compassion that many people deserve to receive from others when you actually listen to them, or when you actually consider them as a human being, because we are human beings. And so the way that Lewis treats Harold, and I believe believe I mentioned Harold in my previous video, but Harold, I think his first appearance is this episode, and he becomes quite a secondary important character in the series because he's not a primary character, he's not a main guy, but he is pivotal at times. And you have like he seems gentle, he's a lawyer, he's clearly earned his place at Pearson Hardman, but I think the way Lewis talks down to him and is very dismissive of Harold as a human being, Lewis bullies Harold, which is disgusting behavior. I know Lewis says that he's trying to teach him, it's like tough love, but I don't think there's much love there. I really don't. It's quite disrespectful and demeaning and belittling that I can't see the upside of that when it comes to Lewis, because Lewis is someone who wants understanding and consideration from others, but he's not so quick to give it. So he's very much a taker at times. It's like a me. So Harvey does a me as well. He questions why people wouldn't like him or who doesn't like him. Everyone likes Harvey. Like, he has that air about him, but I'd say deep down he cares. Whereas I'd say Lewis is almost like the opposite. He gives off like he cares, but deep down he can be quite vile. And it's why I have such a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to how I feel about Lewis. Whereas I'd say with Harvey, it's quite leveled. So I'm not saying I agree with everything Harvey does or says, but it's like with Lewis, either you lose or he is a sore loser. Whereas with Harvey, it was that whole versus caring and winning, and can you care and win? And what you actually find out in this episode, or what you actually hear in this episode, is Mike and Harvey are having a bit of a reflection moment with each other. And they said that one of the other characters is almost like the bad version of both Mike and Harvey, and that means that individual neither cares nor wants to win. I think they were describing the opposing counsel to their corporation, so the legal representative or the lawyer who was representing the young woman who got caught up in insider trading. The character's name is Gabrielle or Gabby Stone. She's the woman who got a bad tip and got caught up in insider trading unintentionally. Then she was scapegoated, and it turns out that it's actually someone part of the senior leadership team, but Kimball, I think his name was, who was the one who caused that to happen. The lawyer representing Gabby is who Mike was describing as the worst versions of both Harvey and Mike, because there was a piece of information about his client that he didn't bother to find nor use in order to help his client. Harvey was actually the one who said he doesn't like shoddy work. Harvey has no problem going up against another lawyer, but that other lawyer better be good at what they're doing. Like, I feel like Harvey respects the fight when the other person, the opponent, is actually doing the best that he can for their client. Harvey can respect you even if he doesn't like you, whereas Lewis don't respect you whether he likes you or not. And that's the difference between the two. And that's why I struggle with Lewis, where I don't struggle with Harvey. There are some similarities in Lewis and Harvey. But what I would say, and this is probably where I would finish, I would say Harvey is made out to be the villain, in that he's the one that gets promoted first, and he seems to be Jessica's favorite, and he seems to walk around the office like he's it, he's the guy, and no one can oppose him or no one can stop him from achieving all that he wants to do. And it's like, oh, poor Lewis, he's not seen in the same light, he's not given the same chances. No, I would say that Lewis is, to a large extent, a huge player in his own downfall, a huge part of his own setback, because he plays himself, I would say, in Lewis's life, regardless of what he's been through. That's why Lewis needed therapy. I mean, Harvey gets therapy too, but Lewis really needed therapy. But regardless of anything, you can treat people better. And I believe that Lewis, to a large extent, is a villain in his own life, but he likes to project outwards as if Harvey is creating that villainous experience in Lewis. So I wouldn't say that Harvey is a villain to Lewis. That's how it's made out to look on the surface. But if you really look at Lewis's character, it's karma. I spoke about karma in my last video. Lewis reaps his own karma because he could treat people better, and then maybe other people would treat him better. Now, Lewis is good at what he does when he does it, but when he's not on job, he is a problem. He is an issue. He is a bug. And you can even see that Jessica doesn't like spending too much alone time with Lewis. Naturally, Jessica and Harvey have their own relationship that they've built over several years, and Lewis is jealous of that. Jessica tries to be nice and gives him tickets to King Lear, which he's really into. You learn a lot about Lewis's interests, from mudding to the opera to the ballet. Like there's a lot of interest that Lewis has, which is fine. He also likes cats, so I side with him on that. I'm a cat lover and he's a cat dad, so I do like that. So he got tickets from Jessica and he assumed that Jessica would be going with him, and then Harvey walks in and throws out there that him and Jessica have gone to a sports game together, went to watch the Yankees, I believe, and Lewis is feeling some type of way that he doesn't have that kind of relationship with Jessica. So Jessica's like, you know what, I'm not gonna let Harvey show you up, so yes, Lewis, I will go with you. And then at the end of their dinner, after they've gone and watched King Lear, Lewis tries to rope Jessica into something else, and Jessica's like, no, we ain't doing this again. Don't get too comfortable, because I got tricked into this once, but I ain't gonna get tricked again. No. And so what I would say is, like, you learn more about boundaries and knowing your level of access that you give to different people, and you don't need to give the same level of access to everyone. And so I feel like Jessica kind of shows this, because what she then does is gives Yankee tickets to Harvey. Harvey's making a comment. Harvey responds almost on the assumption that she's going to go with him, and she says no. She says no, because if you're going to use me to make Lewis feel jealous, that doesn't do well for office dynamics, and so I'm going to say no to you too. Jessica exercises her no in the right way in this episode, and I respect that. I really do like that. So if you'd like to watch more videos of me commenting on Suits episodes, then please like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss an upload of an episode, a season or a series. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching another video on Must Watch Gotta Learn. You can find more commentary for Suits Season 1 on my channel. And if you want to be the first to watch any new season or series, then subscribe to my channel. On Must Watch Gotta Learn, we turn our favorite fictional TV series into real life lessons. It has never been more fun to binge watch a rerun.